Everyone, how's it going? It's Wajan Iverson. Last set, you guys might know I did the augment tier list for silver, gold, and Priz augments. A lot of augments have changed in that time, and we got a lot of new augments, and the meta's changed, and there's been a lot of augment balancing. So I thought I would make another augment tier list because you really liked it last time. And last time those videos ended up being pretty long, so I'll try to rapid fire these the best that I can. But yeah, let's just get right into it. And if you do enjoy these augment tier lists, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate that a lot. So starting off, Air Axiom. It's like a solid augment in maybe like Unara. I would be putting in the B tier. It's a little bit like niche. Like there's not too many comps that can use it, but yeah, I would say something like Unara is like something that can use it well. Also, a lot of the time you're just not in a spot to take like a combat augment on 2-1 and 3-2, and you're not really getting offered silver augments on 4-2 a lot. So next we have the Rumble Hero augment. This actually got a really big buff recently. I would put it in A tier. As you look at the stats, like going up into higher elos, it looks a lot worse. But it looks really, really good in the stats at lower elos. And yeah, I don't think it is like good enough to justify S tier, but I think it's very solid now. Put it in A tier. Augmented Power, I'm usually not very happy to take this. A prismatic augment is about equal to a silver and a gold augment, and this kind of just makes you wait for a prismatic augment. And a lot of the time you don't even get a prismatic augment, and playing down an augment feels really bad. So yeah, I'll be putting this in the C tier. Backup bows. This is one, they introduced a lot of augments, silver augments like this that give one component now and then two of the same type of component like later on after you complete almost like a quest. That being said, this is like a really slow one. A lot of the time you get the bows in like stage 5, 5-1, something like that. I will be putting it in B tier just because sometimes a bow on 2-1 is really nice. Like if you want to slam like a Rage Blade on your Jhin or something like that, but it's probably like low B tier. It feels like it's a lot worse to cash out like a red buff than another item because it basically means that you can't build anti-heal the entire game because you're going to cash out a red buff. And then, yeah, this one is like super, super slow. Band of Thieves is super solid. I think it's just so solid in like almost every spot. I might just put it in S tier because of how versatile it is. Best Friends is a decent combat augment. The one thing I would say is make sure you're in kind of an AD heavy lobby before you take this because a lot of the value is in the armor. Big Friend is pretty hard to make use of, but if you do make use of it, it is pretty good. Like if you think about the gold Ionian augment gives 12% durability. This is a silver augment giving 10% durability. You probably need to be playing some sort of like bruisers, or I've taken it with Yasuo with HP Ionia before. Boxing Lessons, I think I might put this in S tier. It's so much value for a silver augment. Works with like Azir soldiers, Frel Tower, and anytime you're playing at least like, let's say like 7 or maybe even like 6 frontliners, you're getting 100 HP, 80 HP, which is a ton of value. That's the same amount of HP that like the gold magic roll boxing lessons gives 200 HP, and this is a silver augment. So I really like boxing lessons, and I find myself taking it a lot. Wrenching Out, after the emblem buffs, I also might put this in S tier. I think it's like really good. An emblem's kind of better than an item on average, and can give you like direction on 2-1 and stuff. So yeah, I rate Wrenching Out really highly. Wrenching Out Plus is probably going to be either S or A tier. I will put it into A tier because a lot of the time you've kind of decided your comp by 3-2, and maybe it's like a little bit worse. But no, honestly, I'll put it in the S tier because just assuming that you're like, you should recognize that just because it's an S tier augment, that doesn't mean that you're always supposed to take it. But I would say that there's like a lot of spots where certain comps can just use like a ton of emblems, and the Reforger is like really valuable that comes with it. So yeah, I think the value of emblems is really high right now, and I'll just leave both of these in S tier. Cold Shot could probably be B tier. To make like a decent amount of gold, you only need to win like 2 or 3 rounds, but usually when you're trying to push a win streak, then you kind of want something that helps you push your win streak. And also if you do lose, it's really disastrous. And yeah, this augment is just like very, very risky, and it's very rare that you're actually in a spot to take it. So I'll put it in B tier. Caretaker's Ally is solid. There's not too many misses. The main miss would be Ashe, I would say. But there are a lot of really, really good 2 costs. Like if you get like a Nico and you can play for Nidalee, or if you get like Yasuo and you can kind of get like a free Yone on level 8. So I will put this in A tier. I think if you have no direction, it can be a pretty good augment to take. Carve a Path is probably a little bit better than Backup Bows, just because the quest, I feel like you get it a lot faster. I think in something like Slayers, this is really solid. Celestial Blessing, I'll put it in B tier. It's just like a decent combat option. It's nice if you're playing like a melee carry, and you can get some healing on them. Chaotic Evolution is, I will be putting it in C tier. It actually gives like a ton of stats, but you're pretty much forced to play like 1-cost reroll, and there's not really any 1-cost reroll in the meta right now. And usually when you are playing those kinds of like 1 or like 2 cost reroll or whatever, you want to be taking like an Econ augment on 2-1. So yeah, I think it's like super rare that you're in a spot to take this, and I'll just be putting it in the C tier. Component Buffet is just like a very, very solid augment. Vigar is also pretty good right now, so Component Buffet into Vigar is good. It's really nice in like Ionia because Yunara needs super specific items. So nothing crazy, but it is a solid A tier augment. Next we have the Continuous Conjuration. I'll also be putting this one in A tier. I think it's a lot of these like AP carry setups want to carry multiple units, and getting 3 components is really nice, and especially if the rod lets you slam on 2-1, it can be pretty good. Corrosion, I'll also be putting this in the B tier. I think it might be C tier, actually. Yeah, I think this is like, I'm not really excited about this combat augment. It does feel like a little bit slow. If the enemy is playing like melee carry, like Slayers or Warwick or Echo or something, it can be like a little bit better, so that you do more damage to their carry. But I do think also a lot of these frontliners have like super, super high resists, and then, making them lose like 20 armor and MR doesn't actually feel that impactful. So I think it's one of the weaker silver combat augments right now. Crafted Crafting is probably going to be in C tier. It's like a little bit better in something like component anvils, but just generally I'm not very happy to take this. It does let you get like a free bard usually, or not a free bard, but like a free bard with anvils or 5 component opener. But even then, I think this is like one of the worst econ options, and there's not too many reroll comps in the meta. Yeah, this critical success, I'll put this one in the B tier as well. Similar to backup bows, it's like really slow. Usually end of stage 4, early stage 5 is when you're going to be getting the TG. Cashing out a TG is really nice, but yeah, it's just so slow. Delayed Start also going to be B tier. Most sets this is like S tier, but because of unlocks, it feels pretty bad that you can't like unlock anything with Delayed Start. And yeah, this augment just causes you to mix streak a lot, but if you don't have any board or any direction, then it can be quite good. And it's like gives you a decent amount of econ. You're never really poor when you take this, which is nice. Dumbify, I'll be putting this in the F tier right now. There's not really any comp that uses it well, and it kind of just like kills your econ, and level 8 is pretty expensive in this set. Usually if you take Dumbify, Golemify, you really struggle to get to level 8. So I don't think I've taken like either of those augments this set, and I'll probably just leave it in the F tier until they buff it or something. Earth Axiom, I think this one can be okay if you're like got a strong frontliner on 2-1 or something, but yeah, the stun effect doesn't really feel super impactful, and 30 armor and magic resist is not bad, but it's nothing crazy. I don't really find myself taking this one very often. I think it's one of the worst axioms. Efficient Chopper recently got a buff that gives it 4 gold. I think it might actually be S tier. I will put it in the A tier for now because you really want to lose streak with this augment, but this is definitely one of the premier lose streak silver augments now because it gives you 4 gold, and then over the course of the game you're going to be getting a lot more, like maybe like at least 10 gold in the form of units, and could be valuable units as well. But you really need to make sure that you're like, you probably want to be lose streaking with this augment. If you're win streaking, you would probably rather take something else. So just because of that, I will put it in the A tier. Exiles definitely feels like one of the best silver combat augments. I think I'm going to put it in S tier just because of that. Also, like tons of comps can use Exiles, and yeah, super versatile, so I'll be putting it in S tier. X for Buckles, this one comes really fast. I think I'll also be putting this in S tier just because, yeah, usually like by the end of stage 3, you cash out the Warmogs if you have like a decent front line with X for Buckles. So yeah, I'm a really big fan of this one. Eye for an Eye 2-1 is probably B or C tier. I don't really find myself taking this one that much. It is really slow. I think I will put... Yeah, I think I'll put it in B tier because it can be like a decent lost streak option, but maybe kind of low B tier. This Eye for an Eye Plus, however, I'm like a lot higher on it because you get 1 component right away, and on 3, this one's only offered on 3-2, this one's only offered on 2-1. For this one, I'll... yeah, you get the components a lot faster because you have more units on the board because you're probably like level 6 or something at that point. Find Your Center is probably going to be a C tier augment. Usually Find Your Center wanted to be played with like Hero Augment or something, but there aren't really a lot of like Hero Augments that can use it super well in the set. And yeah, it just feels pretty underwhelming. Like there's not a lot of good users. Most of the melee carries want to be played on like A1 or A7, so in the top left or in the top right. You don't really want to put your guy in the middle because it kind of griefs your positioning. It makes you very easy to position against. So yeah, I think I've taken this like a couple times, but yeah, there's not really a lot of good spots for it. It's definitely not very good this set. Fire Axiom is solid if you need anti-heal, but I don't think it's like anything crazy. Like you would much rather just have like an anti-heal item than this most of the time, and it can kind of grief your positioning, and maybe your carry doesn't even apply it that well a lot of the time. So I'll just put it in B tier. I think it can be okay if you need like anti-heal on 3-2 or something. I wouldn't really be taking this on 2-1 very often. Fire Sale is just a very, very solid Econ Augment. It's probably S tier. You can probably almost never go wrong taking Fire Sale, whether you're rerolling, pushing levels, no matter what. If you need money on 3-2, this is probably one of the best things you can hit. Flowing Tears I'll also put in S tier. According to the Mort Dog Monday meta report, this is like the best silver, pretty much. And yeah, it procs really fast, and catching out a blue buff in AP is usually super nice. So I do think this augment is really good right now. Focus Fire is either going to be C or F tier. I think I might actually put it in F tier. I really have not taken this augment a single time the entire set. And most of the AD comps like also have some sort of an AP duo carry, right? Like let's say you're playing like Yunara. Well, you probably have tons of AD from like IE, Titans, Kraken, and your Ionia path already. So the AD that you get is not going to be super impactful, and you're also duo carrying a set who doesn't benefit from this augment as well. The only thing that I could kind of see it in is something like Slayers, but Slayers also have very high AD, and this is also a pretty slow augment, whereas Slayers wants to finish fights like really fast. So I think I'll put this augment in F tier, and I don't think I've taken it a single time this set, and mostly just because it doesn't really have any good synergy with like any comps. But maybe if you guys know something that's good with it, you can let me know. Anyways, where was I? Focus Fire. Glass Cannon. The Silver Glass Cannon is much, much worse than the Gold Glass Cannon. It can be okay combat augment, especially if you have a Gunblade. If you don't have a Gunblade, I don't really see myself taking it this often. I think this one is like so much worse than the Gold version. I will put it in C tier just because I don't like taking this unless you have Gunblade. But if you have Gunblade, then it can be like a solid combat option usually. Good for something is an okay lose streak augment. I know some people rate this one really highly, but I do feel like even when you're lose streaking, a lot of time you want to like slam to unlock, and it doesn't give you like that crazy amount of gold, and it can be like a little bit RNG, and you know sometimes you want to like turn things around and start winning, but you feel awkward to do it with this augment. I'll put it in B tier. I think it's like an okay lost streak choice. Healing Orbs is it's like a pretty mid combat augment, but it is pretty like versatile, and yeah, it's not so bad that it would be in C tier. So I guess I'll put it kind of like low in B tier or something. And yeah, these are not really ordered too much, but just like a general approximation of how I feel about the augments. Iron Assets got nerfed from 4 gold to 3 gold at some point. I'm not sure if that was this set or last set. I actually like you might laugh that it only got nerfed 1 gold. But I do actually think that brings it down a tier, especially for a silver augment. 1 gold is really big. There's going to be another augment that they took 1 gold away from as well later on, which probably also moved down like a couple tiers. So yeah, I'll put Iron Assets in B tier. It's like solid if it lets you like double slam and like win streak and stuff. But the 1 gold nerf did hurt it. Item Grab is going to be in B tier. It's much better on 2-1 than on 3-2. If you really need like an item and you have like a lot of flexibility in like what kind of item you get, it's like pretty solid, but usually the things that give components are going to be like a little bit better than this, and on 2-1 if you have a bunch of upgrades, then this can be like a pretty decent option, I would say. Late Game Specialist, I will put it in... Alright, sorry about that. I think my browser crashed as I was recording it, but I've remade the tier list up to now, and I believe we're on Late Game Specialist, which, as I was saying, it's one of the best options for Fast 9. I will put it in A tier because you have to kind of be in a spot where you're like guaranteed to make it to level 9 to take this. But I do think if you're trying to Fast 9, this is one of the best Econs or best silvers you can hit on 3-2. Next will be Latent Forge. Artifacts are not as exciting this set. But I do think Latent Forge is overall a pretty solid augment. I think it's solidly in the B tier. Leap of Faith is pretty situational. You kind of need like decent slam, and you need like a TF. But I do think like I've seen the high rolls of this augment, and it can be really good. I think I'll put it in B tier. Just because it is quite situational, you kind of need like a couple of Lowy copies, decent items, and a TF to take it. But if you do have that kind of spot to take it, then it can be really good. Lineup I will put solidly in the A tier. I don't think it's quite as good as Boxing Lessons. Like Boxing Lessons is kind of just better in every way, but if you're playing a comp that can use armor and number well, and you have at least, like 7 units in the front line or in the front 2 rows, something like that, then it can be really solid. Something like Slayers or something like that. Next is lunch money. I have seen people do okay with lunch money, but I do think it's definitely like a C tier augment. These C tier augments are generally just going to be like quite situational, and yeah, you know, if you win every single round with lunch money, you're going to get like 30 gold. But how often are you going to win every single round taking like a silver that does nothing? Probably not very often. Next, we have makeshift armor. Makeshift armor is kind of interesting because it's also quite situational. You want to take it when you don't really have any tank items. It's pretty strong on like 2-1, like assuming you have like frontline upgrades with no frontline items. It can be really strong early on. Yeah, I'll put it in B tier because I do think that like it can give you like tons of tempo if you take it in the right spots, but you're mostly going to be taking it in spots where you like don't have any tank items, and it never really like caps out that crazy. It kind of just gives you a lot of like early game and mid game tempo when you don't have items. After makeshift armor, we have misconnections. I think I'll put it solidly in the A tier. If it gives you like 1 or 2 upgrades, it's like amazing. And even if it doesn't, then it gives you like 13, 14 gold, something like that on 3-2, which is a very solid amount if you're poor. And you can take this even if you don't use the 1 cost at all, I would say. So I think it's a solid A tier augment. On a roll recently got changed to only be on 3-2. That being said, I'll put it in the A tier. I think if you're rerolling, you pretty much always click this, but if you're tempoing, then you probably never click this. So yeah, it is a little bit interesting, but if you're like already rerolling and then you got offered on a roll, like Ishtal reroll, Echo reroll, any of the rerolls, then you pretty much insta click it because it just gives you way too much rerolls. Maybe I will actually move it into S tier just because if you are already rerolling, this is pretty much like the best augment that you can hit a lot of the time. So I think because of that, it has to be in S tier. 1s, 2s, 3s got nerfed by 1 gold at some point. They removed one of the 1 costs. I think I used to have it in S tier, but yeah, losing 1 gold for silver actually like really hurts. That's like losing like 15% of the value of the augment. So because of that, I think it's B tier. It's pretty solid, especially if you have like no direction. Then maybe the units can like give you some direction or like give you an opener or something. So I'm never like upset to click this, but I don't think it's like too amazing anymore. 125 is, I think it's pretty solid, especially in like a lot of like fast 9-ish spots. Just getting like 1 5 cost can either like allow you to fast 9, or like you can print with Ornn, or you can like start getting some Sharimans with this ear. A lot of the time, like 4-2 silver is pretty rare in the first place. I feel like I'm taking this augment when I'm like going past 9 and like ahead, but maybe like not so often when I'm just trying to like roll down and like make a board. I do think it's like A tier though. Like also stuff like Ionia just has a lot of hits, or like the Kimono can be pretty good. So yeah, I think it's like a solid augment. You don't really see 4-2 silver that much. That's kind of how I feel about that one. Pandora's items. I think Pandora's is like a very solid augment. Any comp that wants specific items, it pretty much gives you like low roll protection on your items, or if you're playing, lets you play stuff like Vigar or like Yunara, which needs like very specific items, it can be really good. So yeah, I think it's a really solid choice on 2-1, and also if your items are like really bad on 3-2, then this can help you like fix your items a lot of the time. So it's really nice. Patience is a virtue is, I will put it in the A tier. I think there's like an argument for S tier because it gives you like a free Bard, but Bard is not quite as impactful as he used to be. And yeah, I totally think that you can take like Patience as a virtue and just play like tempo, play normally, or you can also like kind of like Lost Streak with Bard into something with it. I think the only problem that this augment runs into is that if you want to like Lost Streak into level 8, then you kind of end up being like too poor because it only gives you like rerolls. So you kind of want to play something that like stabilizes on like stage 3. Or if you just tempo with this augment and, you know, just like get a free Bard and use the rerolls when you have some like pairs or whatever, then I think it's also just like very solid. But yeah, I feel like this augment can be like kind of hard to play sometimes. So I'll put it in the A tier. Placebo is probably going in the C tier. If you compare it to an augment like 1s, 2s, 3s, like this gives 8 gold, but in the form of units, this gives 8 gold in the form of gold, which is a lot less valuable, and I'm not even that high on like 1s, 2s, 3s, right? So yeah, I'll be putting Placebo in the C tier. Placebo Plus, however, is a lot better. I think it's like a solid A tier augment. When you're poor on 3-2, you can click Placebo Plus. It's pretty much that simple. Prep got some buffs recently, I believe. I'm not sure if they buffed Silver Prep or only Gold Prep. That being said, I do think it's like really hard to justify like taking like a combat augment on like 2-1 or whatever, like playing reroll. Usually you end up taking Econ. I think just because this augment actually does give like a ton of stats if you can make full use of it, I'll put it in B tier, but yeah, it's usually hard to justify like clicking prep over some sort of like econ or item augment. Back to Recombobulator, you probably need to get multiple 5 costs or like a 2-star 4 cost or something to even consider clicking Recombobulator, and even then you still might not click it. I will put it in C tier though, because there's definitely some high rolls, and yeah, you could put it in like F tier, but it's actually kind of OP when you have like the Giga spot for it, but yeah, when you don't have the Giga spot for it, you're like super not allowed to click it, so you kind of just need to be aware. Restart Mission is similar, it's like really, really OP if you're in the spot to click it, but if you're not in the spot to click it, it's pretty bad. That being said, I do think there's like a lot more Restart Mission spots than there are Recombobulator spots. I probably will put Restart Mission in the A tier. One thing that you should do before clicking Restart Mission is just make sure that your board is like really cheap, because it removes all the champions on your board and bench. So the cheaper your board and bench are, the more gold that you're actually getting out of the augment. Risky moves, I will put it in C tier. You have to be strong to even consider clicking this augment. And yeah, usually when you're strong, you don't want to be clicking this augment. And like the upside of this augment is not that huge, but the downside of losing 20 HP is pretty large. So I'm pretty low on risky moves. After risky moves, we have rolling for days. This used to be 11 free shop rerolls. It got nerfed to 10. If you're playing reroll, it's pretty solid. I don't feel that good about clicking it going fast 8, because a lot of the time the limiting factor is like the gold to actually get to level 8. I think 20 gold for a silver is pretty solid. I'll put it in the B tier. Second Wind is a very solid silver combat augment. It's actually one of the best. I don't know if I have it in like the same tier as these other S tier augments though. I think I'll put it in A tier, but it would probably be like high A tier or something. 2-1 Silver Destiny is okay to click. I think it's just like solidly in the B tier. Silver Destiny Plus is probably like, I almost never click this just because there are like the kind of super low rolls of hitting like a Dumbify or a Recombobulator or a Restart Mission that can like completely grief your game. That being said, like sometimes if you really need gold, then you actually can click it. And let me just change this back to F. Yeah, I'll put it in C tier. Like if you really need gold, no, I'll just put it in F tier. Yeah, just don't click it because you can get like Dumbify and Restart Mission and like Recombobulator that can like completely grief your game. Silver Spoon is probably just B tier. Like it's like 10 gold for silver is pretty solid. If you're planning to like level and tempo anyways, then it's decent. And it makes your leveling interval like a little bit better. So yeah, it's just like a decent econ augment, like if you're like actually trying to play a board. If you're like lost streaking, then I probably wouldn't click this. Slice of Life recently got a nerf. I think before it was clearly S tier. I think I'll put it in the A tier now. It might actually still be S tier. It gives a lot of econ for a silver augment. They kind of nerfed like the early gold that you get, but over the course of the game, you're still getting tons of gold from this. I'm like heavily considering putting in S tier anyways. Yeah, I'm gonna put it in S tier anyways. Like, I know some people said it was like a lot worse after the changes, but you really only lost like 2 gold. And yeah, I think this augment was just like super OP before, and it has to be like one of the best silver econs on 2-1 still. Slightly Magic Roll is also going to be S tier. Pretty much every single outcome is like very good for a silver augment. And the only issue with the augment is that you can't actually control like which outcome you get. But yeah, stuff like SPAD or like probably the most low roll one is like the HP, but just getting like 10 gold in the form of rerolls or gold or a 2-star 2 cost or whatever. Those are like super, super valuable. So I feel like I'm usually very happy to click Slightly Magic no matter what my spot is, whether I'm like strong or weak. Small Grab Bag is a very solid A tier augment. It's very similar to where is it? Eye for an Eye. This one is going to give you more tempo than Eye for an Eye, but Eye for an Eye is going to give you 3 components over the course of the game, although it's going to take longer to give you those 3 components. And yeah, Small Grab Bag is kind of just strictly better than something like Item Grab Bag on 3-2. Spoils of War. Silver Spoils of War is by far the best Spoils of War. That being said, I'm still going to be putting it in the B tier. You have to make sure that you're strong when you click this, and then it's kind of like a decent econ augment on like 2-1 or something. Stand United is just an augment that, like, it's really hard to justify clicking this before 4-2. I think on 4-2, if you get offered this, it can be like quite good if you have like at least 6 traits. On 3-2, usually you don't have enough traits to justify clicking this. It's probably like C tier on 3-2 and then on like A tier on 4-2, and I'll just average it out in the B tier. Survivor, I will put I'll put Survivor in the F tier, unless you're smurfing. 4 gold on 2-1 is really just not like enough value for a silver augment that you're playing without for like 90% of the game. So yeah, if you're like significantly better than the players that you're playing against, I mean, sure, you can like take it and get away with it and like win the game, but otherwise I would put it in F tier. Table scraps, very solid, gives you a little bit of econ and a couple items. I'll just put it in the A tier. I'm never upset to take this on 2-1. Team building, I've actually been kind of liking team building a bit more recently. If ASOL was in the meta, then this would be even better because you could just take it and play into ASOL, but ASOL is not really meta right now. But I really like double Nicoing like LeBlanc or double Nicoing like a Draven or something with this on 3-1. Even in stuff like Bilgewater, like I like taking this augment for tempo. That being said, like I think it's probably a little too situational to be A tier. But yeah, I know some people are pretty low on this augment, and I actually think that there's like quite a like let's say you have like a LeBlanc Scion opener, you can like take this on 2-1 and then plan to spike with hopefully LeBlanc 2 and Scion 2 on 3-1. Is like a really good plan, I think. So I do think that the augment is has some pretty good spots. Teaming up is also probably solidly in the B tier. It gives 6 gold and 1 component, so and usually 1 component is worth about 8 gold, so like you can think it's maybe like slightly worse than small grab, but maybe it's like the 3 costs can be useful or something. I think it's just like okay to take in most spots, but never anything crazy. We're getting into the last 4 augments. Titanic Titan is like S tier if you have Ishtal, and then otherwise it's probably C tier. I will put it in the C tier though. Just know that it's like if you're playing Ishtal, this is like the best thing you can hit. But otherwise it's very mid. Twin Guardians recently got a buff. I'll put it in the B tier. I think in Ionia it's really good. Otherwise, it's really hard to find a lot of comps that can use this well. But I really like it in Ionia, and you give the armor and MR to like Wukong and Set. It feels really strong. And the last couple, Water Axiom, I think is solidly A tier. I don't think it's quite in the S tier. It does feel better than most of the other Axioms. 3 mana regen is like a lot of mana regen. This is basically getting like a full Void Staff for free on your AP carry. So yeah, if you have an AP direction, then I think this is like pretty good click. I'm even willing to click it on like 2-1 and sometimes. And finally, Wood Axiom. This one's a little bit weird because it wants you to reroll. I've taken this in Void before, and you kind of just like get the Rift Herald on 3-5, and then you start stacking the Rift Herald's HP. It felt pretty solid. I do think it's pretty situational though, so I'll be putting it in B tier. And that's it for all of my silver augments. I'll try to zoom out so you guys can like screenshot the tier list if you want. But thank you for watching, and yeah, I'll see you next time for the gold augment tier list.